For those who believe a two-state solution will one day resolve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, most of the West Bank, more than 90% of the West Bank, will one day become part of a Palestinian state. And because the West Bank is viewed by American administrations and by most of the world community as the Palestinian state in waiting, American administrations have been either passively or actively opposed to Israel's building of settlements on the West Bank. America has viewed settlement activity as a signal to the Palestinian community that Israel never intends to permit Palestinian sovereignty or a Palestinian state to exist on the West Bank. It's a matter of symbolism. But it was not until the Carter administration that the State Department expressed the view that the settlements violated international law. And the Carter position was reversed by all successive presidents. And thus, President Ronald Reagan declared in 1981 that the settlements were not illegal. Reagan criticized them as ill-advised, but not as illegal. Now, where does the issue of legality come from? What's the basis of the legal issue? Part of the Fourth Geneva Convention states that an occupying power shall not transfer part of its own civilian population into the territory it occupies. Is Israel guilty of transferring part of its own population onto the West Bank? America argues no. America maintains that the Geneva Convention refers to forcible deportations, such as those practiced by the Nazis when they forcibly deported their own German Jews to concentration camps. The Geneva Convention was meant to protect civilians in times of war and clearly prohibits mass forcible transfers of protected persons from occupied territories. Obviously, this definition of illegal transfer does not apply to Israelis voluntarily moving onto the West Bank. From this perspective, there's nothing illegal about Israeli settlements. And what about the Oslo Accords, agreed to by Yitzhak Rabin and Yasser Arafat? What do the Oslo Accords require of Israel? Does Israeli settlement activity violate the Oslo Accords? The answer is Israeli settlements do not violate the Oslo Accords or any of their secondary agreements. And while Arafat had hoped to address Israeli settlements in his negotiations with Rabin, Arafat agreed to the Oslo Accords without any reference to a settlement freeze. What the Oslo Accords did say about Israeli settlements was that they would be addressed in later negotiations. And from Dori Gold's perspective, if the Obama administration is now seeking to constrain Israeli settlement activity, the administration is essentially trying to obtain additional Israeli concessions that were not formally required according to Israel's legal obligations under the Oslo Accords. In other words, President Obama is taking a bargaining chip away from Israel in any future negotiations by insisting that Israel now unilaterally and without any gesture in return give up settlement activity which in no way is intrinsically illegal by international law or by any agreement entered into by Israel with the Palestinians.